Shares of Zoetis also in the green today after reporting earnings that beat on the top and bottom line, seeing strength in its pet products business that offset some weakness in livestock. Shares up about 20% over the past 12 months, but down 20% from their December highs. Joining us now, first on CNBC, Zoetis CEO Kristin Peck. Welcome back, Kristin. You know, everyone thought that the pet adoption craze would pull forward all of this demand for pet care during the pandemic. Looks like it's still going strong. What are you seeing?
Yes, thanks for having me back, Sarah and Wolf. Yeah, it's great to be back, certainly on what was our best year ever in 2021. I think it was really led by our innovative, diverse, and durable portfolio. And as you mentioned, we saw significant strength in our pet care business, in our diagnostics, in emerging markets. And I think that sets us up quite well with momentum going into 2022, putting out guidance there from 9 to 11. And as you mentioned, really what's driving that is growth in the pet care business, where people are spending more time with their pets, there are more pets, and they're spending more on those pets.
And you just expect that to continue, given the kind of patterns that you guys have been seeing and people taking care of their pets?
Yeah, we continue to see really strong revenue growth across the veterinary sector, about 8% as you looked at the last quarter, led by about a 3% increase in vet visits. But really what's driving that is spend per visit and the innovation that Zoetis is really driving across parasiticides, dermatology, as we've talked about, Apoquel and Cytopoint. But really exciting, as you saw last year, is the growth of our two new monoclonal antibodies for pain, Librela and Solensia in Europe, with expectations for Librela in 2022 to be a blockbuster in our industry, which is over $100 million. So really excited to see that continued growth, not just in developed markets, but in emerging markets as well.
Kristin, I was going to ask, in light of the extraordinary inflation we've seen in agricultural commodities, whether that drives pricing power for your related products in that area, or in fact pricing pressures as your customers are kind of feeling the squeeze in various areas that go in their supply chain?
Yeah, there's different dynamics, Wolf, as you mentioned, between the livestock side and the pet care side. In pet care, we have significant innovation, bringing first to its kind products that really are enhancing and really changing and disrupting the way they can care for animals in ways we never imagined. And in that area, we do have pricing power. We continue to see pressure in livestock, as you're talking about. Input costs for many of our producers are up, and there's challenges there. So as we look, as you saw in 2021, we've had 1% growth there versus pet care, where you saw 27%. We see some of those trends continuing into 2022 with continued pressure. But thankfully, with our innovative portfolio, we are able to take price on the pet care side, which is about 60%, as you know, of our portfolio.
But some people thought that opening up of economies meant more eating out at restaurants, and that would drive a lot more demand for food, especially when prices at the grocery are high. So is that not what the case, or it's just getting offset by some of these supply pressures?
We have seen increases, but we're not back to pre-pandemic levels, certainly in travel and tourism. So people are out dining, but some of that travel and tourism. And there's been a lot of challenges for producers, as you know. Labor's been certainly a big one. So I think some of that stuff in a cyclical industry such as livestock will take a little while to work through. But as we've talked about, we really saw 8% growth outside of the U.S. in livestock. We think when we get through some of the loss of exclusivity on some of our products that have gone generic, we expect growth in livestock to continue to go back to pre-pandemic levels in the 4 to 6% range.
We saw big hamster cull in Hong Kong during some of the COVID fears, and we always ask you about what we've learned about COVID and pets, whether they can spread them. There were deer in Staten Island that tested positive for COVID. I'm wondering how much of an innovation driver this is for you, looking at vaccines and treatments on COVID for animals, or do you just see this as a temporary phenomenon?
Look, I think Zoetis has always talked about, when it comes to emerging infectious disease, first to know and fast to market. And we were working on developing a vaccine for COVID for pets in case they were going to be significantly impacted. Thankfully, they really haven't been. Most of it has been human to pets, and it hasn't been that major. But what we did was pivot that program to help support zoos. So we provided COVID vaccines to about 100 zoos in 41 states in 14 countries, helping over 13,000 animals. You know, the reality is 70% of emerging infectious disease in humans has an animal origin. So staying on the forefront of this in our industry is really critical, not just to animal health, but to human health as well. And Zoetis is committed to doing that.